Even his voice sounds calmer and more restrained. Now listen, I'm not saying anything for sure, but if you have watched him for years, you know what I'm talking about. You cannot tell me something doesn't feel off.
Who are you? It's me, Jim Carrey. No, you look different. Your eyes are different. You don't even talk the same.
But here's the part nobody is really putting together. In this world, some people are allowed to be famous, and then there are people who become famous on their own terms. The first group follows the rules, stays quiet, and plays the game. The second group climbs way too high, gets way too loud, and sees things most people were never supposed to notice. And once that happens, the powerful figures at the very top start getting uncomfortable. Because suddenly someone is looking behind the curtain. Jim Carrey was that second type, no question about it. He wasn't just another comedian cracking jokes on stage. He wasn't just a box office name bringing in ticket sales. This guy was a wild force of energy, totally unpredictable. The kind of personality you simply couldn't control, couldn't script, and definitely couldn't box in. For years, Hollywood loved that chaotic magic because it made them a fortune. Studios handed him massive roles in some of the biggest movies ever made, and he turned them into cultural legends. But somewhere along the road, things shifted. Jim Carrey stopped playing along with the usual script. He started saying things that made entire rooms go silent, comments that had powerful executives shifting in their chairs. He began pointing straight at the system behind the scenes, the quiet machine that decides who rises to the top and who quietly disappears. And the wild part is, he didn't point at it quietly. Jim Carrey blasted it out on camera in front of millions of people. Interviews, red carpets, public moments where he started speaking in ways that made people seriously uncomfortable, and that's when the tone around him suddenly changed. Because when someone becomes a threat to something that powerful, the consequences don't look normal. You don't just lose a few roles. You don't just get quietly pushed out of the spotlight. No! What happens next can look a lot more strange. The kind of thing most people don't even want to think about. And once you start noticing the pattern, it becomes hard to ignore. Jim Carrey didn't simply fade away like many other celebrities. That's the strange part. Some people believe the man the public sees today isn't the same version that once dominated Hollywood. Now hold on before brushing that idea aside. This isn't just random internet chatter. Over the years, people have pointed to a long list of visible changes. His behavior shifted. His public personality started feeling different. His career slowed down at very specific moments. When you stack all those things together, the timing, the transformation, the sudden quiet periods,
Jim Carrey's deep brown eyes are one of Hollywood's trademarks, and countless close-up shots have captured their color. However, in the TV footage that night, when the camera zoomed in, his eyes appear to be clear blue.
it begins to feel less like coincidence and more like something carefully planned. So let's rewind for a second. To understand why Jim Carrey speaking out caused such a stir, you have to remember what kind of position he was in. This wasn't some struggling actor trying to get attention. This was a superstar with nearly 50 films under his belt, 2 Golden Globes, and a career that stretched across comedy, drama, and massive blockbusters. For years, he looked completely untouchable. But even at the height of that success, Jim Carrey was starting to make powerful enemies. Not the usual kind you get from a bad movie deal or a tough day on set. These were different, the kind that appear when someone starts talking about how the system really works behind the scenes.
They love the taste of human flesh and they drink human blood.
And the crazy thing is, he wasn't whispering those thoughts to a few friends. He was broadcasting them. Was talking about. The audience that was talking about. The audience, the staff, the people working behind the cameras, many of them caught the meaning immediately. And according to several people who later claimed they were actually in that studio audience that night, the reaction inside the room looked nothing like what viewers heard at home. The laughter that aired on television, some claim it wasn't even real. Reports from people connected to that taping say the room was mostly silent, awkward, tense, almost frozen. But when the episode aired, suddenly you could hear laughter filling the background. If those claims are true, that means the network added a laugh track later during editing. Think about how strange that would be. A moment where a major celebrity makes serious comments on live television, and the reaction gets reshaped before the public even sees it.
All you need is a blood transfusion from the pack, and you reverse aging.
And this is where the story starts getting heavier, because Jim Carrey wasn't just throwing out random ideas for shock value. What he was talking about sounded very specific. Over the years, he kept pointing toward what he believed was a powerful network of elite figures connected to both entertainment and political circles. According to those claims, the problem wasn't just normal corruption or shady money deals. The accusations were much darker than that. Some public figures who have spoken about these topics have described disturbing stories involving secret gatherings, strange rituals, and powerful groups protecting their influence at all costs. One person who made similar statements in interviews was Roseanne Barr. She faced massive backlash and was heavily criticized afterward. But if you listen closely to what she actually said on camera, it raises a big question. Why would someone with a huge career and reputation risk everything by saying something so explosive in public? Something clearly made her believe it was worth the risk. What exactly would someone gain by saying something like that in public? Nothing at all. But what could they lose? Their career, their reputation, their entire place in the spotlight? And yet, she still said it on camera. That alone made people stop and pay attention. And she wasn't the only one speaking out either. A model named Gabriela Rico appeared in a video recorded back in 2009, and the footage left viewers shocked. In the clip, she looked clearly shaken as she tried to explain what she claimed to have witnessed at a private elite party that had been connected to Jeffrey Epstein. Her voice sounded nervous, almost panicked, as she described disturbing scenes involving powerful guests and secretive behavior behind closed doors. The video circulated online for a short time before it seemed to vanish from public view. For years, very few people talked about it. Then, after new documents connected to the Epstein case started gaining attention, internet users began digging through old clips again. And that video suddenly resurfaced. And that's when people started bringing up another topic that had floated around online for years. A theory many had dismissed quickly until new Epstein documents appeared and people noticed a strange message buried inside the files, an email that included the word adrenochrome. Adrenochrome is a chemical compound that can appear in the body during intense stress responses. Records connected to the Epstein case showed that victims were often placed in extremely frightening situations, something investigators have discussed repeatedly in reports. Now this is where the conversation started exploding online. Because once people saw that word appear in documents tied to a major investigation, they began digging deeper than ever before. Suddenly, thousands of users were scanning interviews, old clips, and red carpet moments looking for anything that might connect the dots. And that's when many of them circled right back to Jim Carrey.
Night to blow the lid off it, to be the whistleblower. I'm sick and tired of the secrets and the lies. It is the secret symbol of the Illuminati, and you're a part of it.
For years, Carrey had been dropping strange comments during interviews that didn't sound like normal Hollywood talk. Sometimes he would laugh it off. Other times, he would speak in a way that sounded almost dead serious. In one appearance, he even joked about secret groups running the industry while making hand signs and looking straight into the camera. The room laughed it off at the time. But later, people started replaying that clip again and again. Then came another moment that made viewers pause. During a red carpet interview, Jim Carrey suddenly said, "There is no me. There are just things happening." The interviewer looked confused, the crowd looked confused, and the clip spread everywhere online within hours. Fans began asking the same question over and over. Was he joking? Was he speaking in metaphors? Or was he trying to hint at something deeper going on behind the scenes of fame and power? Then another strange detail started making the rounds online. People digging through the Epstein documents claimed they spotted references to blood transfusions connected to research about slowing down aging. That discovery sent investigators on the internet into overdrive. Names of doctors, universities, research institutes, and wealthy investors started popping up in the same conversations. Some users even pointed out links between medical research programs, major tech investors, and celebrity-backed projects that had appeared on television with stars like Ashton Kutcher and Oprah Winfrey. Once those dots started circulating online, people everywhere began trying to connect them for themselves. And this is exactly the kind of system Jim Carrey had been hinting at for years. He wasn't just tossing out random comments for attention. He kept pointing toward what he believed was a powerful structure operating behind the scenes of entertainment and influence. And the strange thing is, right after years of being one of Hollywood's biggest names, his presence in the industry suddenly slowed down. The same comedian who once dominated the box office seemed to step away from major roles, big press tours, and the usual talk show circuit. To some fans, the change felt sudden and confusing. Jim Carrey had spent 3 decades fighting his way to the top, performing nonstop, pushing boundaries, and speaking his mind. That kind of personality doesn't usually just disappear quietly. which brings up the most unsettling part of this entire story. It's not just about the things Jim Carrey said on camera. It's about what people believe may have happened to the man who said them. People who had followed Jim Carrey for decades, not casually but intensely, started noticing something that felt seriously off. These were the fans who watched every interview, every public appearance, every random clip that surfaced online, the kind of people who could spot the smallest change in his behavior. And what they began pointing out wasn't just one strange detail. It was a whole list of them stacking up all at once. Think about it for a moment. Jim Carrey's face was practically his superpower. Those wild, stretchy, over-the-top expressions were the heart of his entire career. Movies like The Mask, Ace Ventura, and The Cable Guy worked because his face could twist and move in ways almost nobody else could pull off. It was his signature, completely unique. So some fans started asking a strange question. Why would someone ever change the one physical feature that made them a legend? People get older, of course. Faces change, energy slows down, personalities evolve. That part is normal. But critics online say Jim Carrey didn't just mellow out over time. To them, it felt like the loud sarcasm, the chaotic energy, and that fearless attitude he once had toward powerful figures suddenly vanished. And then observers began pointing to something else they claimed looked different: his hands. Here's another detail that really caught people's attention online. Some longtime followers began claiming that Jim Carrey appeared to switch his dominant hand in certain appearances. And for many viewers, that raised eyebrows immediately. Your dominant hand is something most people develop from early childhood. It becomes automatic, wired into how you write, sign, and perform everyday actions. Where they believed he appeared to use the opposite hand. Now, whether those clips were misunderstood or simply different angles, the debate exploded across forums and video breakdowns. Then another claim started spreading right alongside it: his eyes. For years, Jim Carrey was known for having dark brown eyes. But in some high-definition appearances, viewers insisted they looked noticeably lighter, almost blue under certain lighting. That detail alone sparked endless frame-by-frame analysis across the internet. One moment people kept replaying was when he appeared at the César Awards in France. On that stage, he delivered a calm speech in French, smiled for photographers, greeted fans, and signed autographs as cameras flashed everywhere. And while the internet buzzed with theories and speculation, the rest of the entertainment industry carried on as if nothing unusual had happened at all. That reaction right there is what really pushed the mystery even further. Because whenever fans started bringing up these strange details online, the response from major media outlets was almost identical every time: silence or quick dismissal. Articles would label the discussion as wild internet rumors and move on without digging any deeper. But that only made people more curious. For longtime followers of Jim Carrey, the change wasn't just about physical details. They kept pointing to the shift in personality. This was the same guy who once walked into interviews like a human tornado, cracking jokes every few seconds, jumping between characters, making entire studios lose control with laughter. His energy used to be chaotic, loud, totally unpredictable. But in later appearances, viewers noticed a completely different vibe. The man on screen often looked calmer, slower, almost distant at times. Some fans believed he seemed reflective and spiritual. Others thought he appeared like someone carrying a heavy story he wasn't ready to explain. The clips from different years started getting stitched together online. Old interviews next to new ones. Old red carpets next to recent events. And when people compared them side by side, the same question kept popping up everywhere across comment sections. What exactly happened to Jim Carrey behind the scenes? And here's the part that makes the whole story even more unsettling for some people. Jim Carrey isn't the only celebrity whose comments have sparked conversations about how power works inside the entertainment world. Over the years, comedian Cat Williams has also spoken publicly about industry pressure and the idea that some performers are expected to follow certain rules if they want to stay successful. Williams has said in multiple interviews that he refused to go along with things he felt were wrong.
Walking away was hard, but it was when the Illuminati first started coming after him. And I'll never forget the day when they breached the house and I left. You know, back in that moment, Kat was still wearing Kevlar to bed.
According to stories shared by people close to him, that decision came with serious stress and constant tension around his career. Some reports even claimed he took extra security precautions at home because he believed speaking openly could bring unwanted attention. Whether every detail is true or not, it shows how intense the pressure in that industry can feel for some performers. And he's not the only one people bring up in these discussions. Dave Chappelle is another name that often comes up. At the peak of his success, Chappelle famously walked away from a massive television deal reportedly worth around $50 million. Instead of staying in the spotlight, he left the country for a while and spent time in South Africa. When he eventually returned, fans noticed he spoke very carefully about that period of his life. He hinted that certain things happening behind the scenes didn't sit right with him. And that pattern is what many observers keep pointing out. In Hollywood, when someone pushes back against the system, the outcome can change fast. Careers can stall, reputations can take hits, and headlines can turn brutal overnight until the public stops listening altogether. And then there's the possibility some people whisper about online. The idea that something even worse can happen. Not just career damage or bad headlines, but a transformation so strange that fans begin questioning everything they see. The same face standing on stage, the same name on the headlines. But something about the presence feels different. That's the part that keeps certain internet theories alive. People point to moments where Jim Carrey appeared calm, controlled, almost unusually quiet compared to the chaotic performer audiences grew up watching. The man who once stormed through interviews with wild jokes and fearless comments suddenly looked more reserved in later public appearances. For some observers, that shift felt dramatic. In satire and online discussions, some fans even joke about the idea that they took his face, they took his voice, and replaced the rebel with someone who plays the game. Of course, those claims remain speculation, but the phrase spread quickly because it captured how different some viewers felt his public image had become. According to people who followed his interviews closely, Jim Carrey spent years openly criticizing parts of the entertainment system. He talked about powerful networks, industry pressure, and what he believed were strange rituals surrounding fame and influence. These comments often came when he was at the absolute height of his career, when he had the most attention and the most to lose. And that's what keeps the mystery alive for many fans. After years of explosive interviews and unpredictable appearances, his presence in Hollywood suddenly became quieter. Not a slow fade over decades, but what some viewers felt was a sharp shift. Then came later appearances at major events, like the César Awards, where he stood smiling for cameras, signing autographs, and delivering polished speeches in front of the world, while the internet kept debating whether the man they were watching was the same unpredictable star they remembered. The man standing in front of cameras today, some fans argue, doesn't sound like the Jim Carrey they remember. Not the same wild delivery, not the same fearless energy that once shook entire studios. To those people watching closely, everything feels slightly different. The posture, the tone, the calmness that replaced the storm. Online forums exploded with people claiming they noticed different details. The hand he writes with, the color of his eyes under bright lights, even the rhythm of his voice. And that's where the darkest theories begin to grow. Some internet communities claim powerful groups don't always destroy critics in obvious ways. According to those theories, the quieter solution would be something far more subtle. Replace the rebel with a calmer version. Put someone cooperative back in front of the cameras. Let the public assume it's just age, stress, or a personality shift. Let the world keep moving without asking too many questions. Whether someone believes those ideas or not, one thing is undeniable. Jim Carrey spent years saying things that made powerful people uncomfortable. He talked about hidden influence, industry pressure, and the strange side of fame while he was still one of the biggest stars on the planet. That takes courage. And today, people still debate what really happened behind the scenes. Did he simply step away from Hollywood to live a quieter life? Or was there something deeper going on that the public never fully understood? What do you think actually happened to Jim Carrey? If you found this story interesting, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, share this with someone who loves Hollywood mysteries, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. The conversation around this story is far from over.